Hi, welcome back to our podcast. I'm the gentleman accompanied by the disturbed Southern Belle.
Hello.
And in this episode, we're continuing our series on old Hollywood and the more famous and more messed up stories of the actors and actresses. So in this episode, we're talking about Joan Crawford, one of the more well-known ones of that era.
Right.
So, known partially for her Oscar-winning role in Mildred Pierce, and also mostly known for the rather scandalous life she allegedly led.
Yeah.
Both admitted to in her own words, in her own autobiography, and stories later told by her children.
Right.
So, Joan Crawford was a decades-long fixture in Hollywood. She got her start as a chorus girl before the minds at Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, a returning name, naturally, because they were the biggest studio.
They were one of the biggest. Warner Brothers, MGM, those were biggest studios back then. Well,
Anyway,
they still are, I mean. But
no, yeah, they're still around. Not quite the powerhouse they used to be, because there's so much competition nowadays. Right. Still very well known.
Right.
Anyway, the Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer people plucked her out of obscurity in 1924. Somehow, she was able to withstand the sea of change from silent films to the talkies, as they were called, and skyrocketed to fame in the early 1930s with her dramatic films. So the former dancer was known for playing beautiful, complicated, and strong-willed women, which is very ironic considering her personality. We'll get into that later.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, she wasn't strong-willed at all. Kind of a pushover, right?
So, she was an icon during the Great Depression, and her flicks enticed audiences by depicting a world where ambitious women could pull themselves up by their bootstraps, so to speak. She achieved the kind of success that most only actually see on movie screens. But behind the glitz and glam and the private pools and shockingly high Hollywood paychecks, her life was marked by a series of rather tragic events, like literally every other person we've covered so far.
True enough.
So, from a hardscrabble childhood as a self-described workhorse to a string of high-profile and heartbreaking marriages and divorces, to her estrangement from her two eldest children later on in life, Crawford's rags to riches story shows that money and fame don't always shield you from life's darker tones.
Right.
So, although some of the most well-known images of Joan Crawford show her in glittering gowns and her trademark shoulder pads, her childhood was anything but flashy. In fact, her life was marked by a tragedy very early on. She was born in the city of San Antonio, Texas on March 23rd of 1904. Her parents were Annabelle Johnson LeSueur and Thomas LeSueur. They named her Lucille Fay LeSueur. However, this name wouldn't stick, and her childhood nickname became Billy. So, little Billy was the third of her parents' children. A prior daughter, Daisy, had passed away in infancy, and a boy, Hal, had been born just a year earlier in 1903. Life had its struggles, but real financial strife didn't hit until Mr. LeSueur abandoned the family not long after his second daughter was born. LeSueur, a French-Canadian migrant in America, was accustomed to moving around, and one day, after leaving home on a contracting job, the father of two simply never returned.
Yeah, it happened, sadly.
And still does to this day.
Yeah, it does.
In a very unfortunate amount.
Oh, yeah, it's not a good thing, but it does happen.
Anyways, not only did this condemn Crawford, as she would later be known, to never knowing her biological father, but it also catapulted her and her family into the economic underclass. The biographers behind Joan Crawford of the Essential Biography, which will be referenced later on quite a bit, they claim that Crawford's mother was bitter over the abandonment and struggled to provide a stable life for her children, which is understandable, honestly.
I guess so. Back in those days, it was harder for women to make money as well, period. And a lot of jobs for them.
So the family of three lived in rather impoverished quarters and were eventually forced to move out of their hometown of San Antonio, hoping that they would find greener pastures, so to speak.
Right.
After her husband abandoned the family, Annabelle Johnson LeSueur moved herself and her two children to Lawton, Oklahoma. There, the savvy mother was able to seduce a local business owner named Harry Casson, and the two were soon married. Casson was the owner of an opera house, he had a steady income, and his marriage to Crawford's mother meant that the family's days of financial struggle were effectively over. With a front row seat to the backstage goings on at the opera house, Crawford began to fall in love with the entertainment industry. However, the relationship between her and Casson would soon take a rather dark turn.
Mm.
It wasn't until she was much older that Crawford revealed that she had been sexually assaulted by her stepfather.
Ugh.
Yet, even as an adult, Crawford was unable to view her stepfather's actions as villainous. She would later be quoted as saying, "He was gentle, and I led him into it."
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Anyways, in Crawford's memory, she cast herself as the instigator of a love affair rather than a victim of an act of abuse. And when Crawford's mother discovered that her husband had been abusing her daughter, she filed for divorce and separated her children from her ex. However, for some reason, Anna LeSueur was far from being her daughter's protector. Crawford claimed that her mother began to resent her after discovering Casson's abuse. After moving Crawford and her brother to Kansas City, Missouri, the matriarch's relationship with her daughter turned sour, and Mrs. LeSueur now saw her daughter as a rival for male attention.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
That's so stupid.
It's stupid and it's sick considering how young she is at this point.
I know. And it's just so stupid. But there's that still goes on too.
Yeah. At least it's not as prevalent as it was back then.
Yeah, maybe not.
Anyways, at age 13, Joan Crawford left home and enrolled in a boarding school called St. Agnes. Her reasoning was that life at home was tough. Looking back on her childhood, the movie star would be quoted as saying, "My mother was jealous of me and wanted me out of her life." End quote. However, her schooling at Agnes wasn't exactly the reprieve she had hoped it would be. It was an all-girls school, and Crawford's classmates were mostly wealthy girls whose life experiences could be more difficult from the future starlets. Unlike her classmates, Crawford struggled to pay for her lessons and exchanged her courses for hard labor. While other girls were studying, resting, or riding home to their families, a young Billy, as she was called then, was busy mopping hallways and scrubbing bathrooms. Crawford would later be quoting as saying, "I was a workhorse, not a child, but a workhorse."
Fair enough.
End quote. Under the guise of an education, the administration at St. Agnes used Crawford as free labor. Those who knew her recalled that Crawford's obsession with cleanliness would actually follow the actress throughout her entire life. And that wasn't the only attitude that stuck. The sense of inferiority that she felt projected onto her by her wealthier classmates also left its mark on her subconscious. As an adult, when the St. Agnes administration requested donations from its alumni, Crawford reportedly said, "They'll never get one single dollar from me." Which is fair.
True. She gave him a lot of free labor, so there you go.
So, in 1921, a 17-year-old Joan Crawford auditioned for and scored a role as a dancer in a traveling show. She was on her way. As the years rolled on, Crawford climbed the entertainment industry ladder, moving from dancing gigs to flapper girl status, to eventually scoring a film contract with Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer Studios. So, from this point on, she would no longer be known as the Little Southern Belle from San Antonio, Lucy LeSueur. She would be known by the name of Joan Crawford.
Uh-huh.
However, real life eventually caught up with her, and her toxic relationship with her mother and brother Hal almost put the kibosh on her fledgling film career. So Hal was the first to appear on his sister's doorstep, seeking fame and fortune, and her mother soon followed. What began as Crawford's experiment with solo living became, once again, an angry, toxic home. She would later be quoted as saying, "Hal wanted to live it up on my dollar. He simply did not want to work." End quote. Meanwhile, her mother also began to depend on her daughter financially. In addition to stealing Crawford's precious hours of sleep by throwing loud, drunken parties in their shared California home, even after she got her own place, Crawford sent her family money for years. In the end, the star severed all ties with Hal and her mother, as she was right to do.
Fair enough on that, yeah.
So, Joan Crawford's first ever on-screen appearance came in 1925 when the young starlet, who was then still going by her birth name, Lucy LeSueur, was cast in Lady of the Night. To her dismay, Crawford had no lines and was only intended to act as a body double for the feature's real leading lady, screen legend Norma Shearer. So, what could have been a relationship built on camaraderie and mentorship sadly turned sour, and Crawford stumbled into her very first Hollywood feud.
No, Lord.
So, unbilled and disrespected on set, Crawford felt that Shearer was everything she wanted to be but could never achieve. A bona fide star and the then girlfriend of powerhouse producer Irving Thalberg. Shearer had blockbusters and bankrollers behind her, while the newly arrived Crawford had not a single penny or friend to her name.
All right.
The comparison stoked Crawford's deep-seated insecurities, and the biographers behind Joan Crawford, the Essential Biography, reported that even years later, when Crawford was a star, she considered Shearer to be one of her two chief rivals at MGM. Her other rival was reportedly Greta Garbo, whose serious historical dramas Crawford wanted to emulate.
Right.
She would continue to compare herself to Shearer throughout the entirety of her career, casting herself as the eternal loser. Crawford's words for the Romeo and Juliet actress were plenty. She was once reported as saying, "If they are looking for a lady, they cast Norma. If they want a shop girl, they cast me." End quote.
Well, fair enough back then. I mean, she was only breaking in, so of course she's not going to go in most of the time and be just a leading lady right off the bat, usually.
So when Joan Crawford married Douglas Fairbanks Jr. in the late 1920s, she found that her new in-laws didn't really care for her at all. In fact, they both really hated her guts.
That happens too, sadly.
Yeah. Anyways, although Crawford was just starting to build her legacy, Fairbanks Jr. was the son of Hollywood royalty, and this soon became a problem for the young couple. After a rather playful courtship, Crawford and Fairbanks said "I do" in 1929. However, their postnuptial life was anything but smooth sailing. The groom's father was Douglas Fairbanks, a megastar from the silent film days who was often called the King of Hollywood. And while Fairbanks Jr.'s biological mother was Fairbanks' often forgotten first wife, Beth Sully, it was his equally powerful stepmother, the ultra-famous former silent film star Mary Pickford, who terrorized her son's new wife. So the other older power couple famously lived on a lavish estate that they had named Pickfair, an invitation to which was highly coveted in Tinseltown. However, even after Crawford had married its heir apparent, she didn't receive her invitation to the mansion until a full year after she had officially joined the family. She would later say, "I was so desperate to go, but by the time we finally got the summons, I felt like telling them exactly what they could do with it."
Fair enough.
Quote. Fair enough,
I mean, that's a long time to wait to invite your daughter-in-law to your house. A year?
Yes.
I mean, like them or not, that's still your son's wife, you know.
Yes. So, anyways, Pickford's shoulder was especially cold, and the former starlet refused to speak to Crawford one-on-one during her stay. New to the Hollywood elite, Crawford was very clearly unwelcome. So, embroiled in the land of booze, parties, and petty jealousies, Joan Crawford and Douglas Fairbanks Jr.'s Hollywood marriage did not last long.
I see that coming. Who would have ever?
Absolutely no one.
No, it's just so shocking.
Everyone knows that rich, famous people are known for picking wisely their partners.
Yeah, and staying married forever and ever, usually, right?
Yeah.
Now, fair enough. That's not even necessarily rich and famous. That's just true of most people in general.
True. But, anyways, their romance had started on the MGM studio lot, and Crawford was quoted as once saying, "I thought he was delectable."
Oh, gosh. Was interesting.
But it was that very same cinematic culture that would eventually tear them apart. After marrying Fairbanks in 1929, Crawford filed for divorce in 1933. So, not long at all.
No, not long.
With Crawford on her way to becoming a household name, and Fairbanks himself, the son of an actor many considered the best of his generation, their divorce naturally made national headlines. The New York Times ran a headline that read, "Young Fairbanks sued for divorce. Joan Crawford brings action in Los Angeles, charging mental cruelty. Calls actor jealous, suspicious of her friends from their first year of marriage in 1929, she declares."
Alrighty.
Oh my God, these old headlines are so long.
They can be sometimes. They are. They are ridiculous compared to what we're used to now.
Anyways, the biographers behind Joan Crawford, the essential biography, report that this discord in their relationship had been present from the start, and it was only in 1933 that their conflicts had reached a fever pitch. Not long after walking down the aisle, Crawford realized that what she had interpreted as love that would last a lifetime was nothing more than lust. Furthermore, Crawford's intense dedication to her career was at odds with Nepo baby Fairbanks's lax attitude towards his own. In the end, she called it quits on her ill-fated marriage. So, any fan of Joan Crawford will know that the movie star eventually became the mother of 4 adopted children.
Mm-hmm.
However, not many are aware of the painful path that Crawford had to take to get to motherhood. So, interviews with Crawford revealed that the star's desire to adopt stemmed from her traumatic experience of not being able to carry a pregnancy to term.
Right.
In 1981, book titled Conversations with Joan Crawford by writer Roy Newquist interrogates Crawford about several of the rumors that have dogged her throughout her career, including that the actress was rendered infertile by a botched abortion procedure she underwent as a teenager. Crawford's response was, and I quote, "Jesus, look, I wanted to marry desperately, and while I was married to French Haute Tone, I had 7 miscarriages. Some of them damned painful. None of the doctors I went to could understand why I couldn't carry to full term." End quote.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, she had very strong opinions about those rumors,
Right.
which is fair.
Yeah. I mean, if you
given
didn't...
the sensitive subject.
Well, yeah. I mean, I would be upset too if someone had said it was because of some reason that was totally inaccurate. I mean, there's nothing... I mean, having an abortion is one thing, but I mean, if you literally didn't do it and then somebody said, "Oh, that's why you can't have babies now," that would make me mad too.
Yes.
Because that would be very sensitive and very painful.
So, anyways, the husband in question was Crawford's second husband, actor Franchot Tone, with whom she rebounded after her marriage to Douglas Fairbanks Jr. dissolved. They were married from 1935 to 1939, so...
Another long one.
Another long one. Their time together had left a mark on her. After her series of miscarriages, Crawford later stated that she had visited a doctor who had told her that she would never be able to have children of her own.
That's sad, too.
Yes.
Back then, there wasn't a lot of choices like there are now either, so...
No. And honestly, even now, there's only so much you can do.
There's only so much you can do, correct. It just depends. But, I mean, yeah.
Options were more limited back then.
Definitely more limited.
Basically.
Right.
So, anyways, the internet is actually filled with adoption stories that are guaranteed to make you cry. I've read a few myself.
Sure.
However, one that you may not have encountered before is the story of Joan Crawford's adoptions. So, while she eventually called herself a mother to 4 adopted children, her first foray into adoption ended in disaster, honestly.
Right.
The full story was first revealed in The Other Side of My Life, a 1991 autobiography by David Gary Dethridge. And Dethridge writes that he was born in LA, California on June 3rd of 1941 and given the name Marcus Gary Kohlberg. However, only 10 days after he was born, he was adopted by Crawford and christened with the new name Christopher Crawford. However, when Dethridge's birth mother discovered a Hollywood movie star had adopted her son, she waged a campaign to get him back. She sent intense letters to Crawford and MGM until Christopher was returned to his birth mother in November of 1941. As an adult, Dethridge reached out to those who once knew Crawford. Her former secretary, Betty Barker, reportedly told him, "When she lost you, all of us were afraid to mention your name to her for years. It was a tender subject with her."
Well, I guess so.
Yeah. So, the truth about Joan Crawford and Betty Davis's iconic feud has been a source of debate for decades. Whether it was professional jealousy, a clash of acting philosophies, or something else, the rivalry between the two had gone down in history as one of the most compelling Hollywood feuds in history.
Right.
It even inspired a drama series from FX and Ryan Murphy in 2017 called Feud, Betty and Joan.
Yeah.
So, while Joan and Davis had been at each other's throats for years, it was when the two joined forces to film 1963's Whatever Happened to Baby Jane
Mm-hmm.
that the tabloid sniping really began. The two stars clashed on set, and both Crawford and Davis offered disparaging quotes to different magazines throughout the course of the filming. It was Crawford who took the biggest hit, unfortunately. Davis pulled no punches when it came to calling out her rival's less than virginal career in Hollywood. She was quoted as saying, Crawford slept with every male star at MGM except Lassie.
Yeah, I remember her saying that. So yeah, everybody except Lassie the dog.
Yep.
So now I don't know any of that's true or not. If it was, I'm not saying she didn't sleep around. I'm saying, but yeah.
Stuff gets said very often.
Mm-hmm.
And they were in a feud.
Right.
And given Betty Davis's personality,
She was a kind of a bitch.
yeah,
Well, both of them were really. Let's be
a
honest.
lot of them were.
Yeah, they were not nice people. But
A
anyway.
lot of both men and women the same were complete
Mhm.
assholes to each other and everyone else. There's a
Mhm.
reason people say never meet your idols.
They let the fame go to their head. Big
Very much. So, anyways, Davis once said that of her co-star, and once as Crawford, who was once a box office queen, her reputation was on its way out with that remark.
Mm.
Because that was what really started just destroying her career and what led to a lot of stuff that happened later
A little
on.
bit, yeah, because she was getting some really bad things said about her, and people believed it. Now, I'm
Yeah.
not saying that none of it was true, but at the same time,
There was no real proof.
we don't know how much of it was true, to be honest, right?
Anyways, despite her once spectacular success, Joan Crawford became one of many actresses who were forced to take a pay cut for a role later in her career.
Right.
As the 1930s gave way to the 1940s, a new era emerged, one in which Crawford was considered box office poison, at least according to the Independent Theater Owners Association of New York, which in 1938 used the press to publicly shame a litany of actresses who were costing the organization money.
Mm-hmm.
In 1942, Crawford left her longtime studio, MGM, and re signed with Warner Brothers. Sadly, her salary at Warner Bros. Was less than half of what it had been previously. This extra stress resulted in a turn towards the bottle, and as Crawford historians wrote in Joan Crawford, The Essential Biography, whenever she went out, she brought a flask of 100 proof vodka.
She wasn't messing around then. That's pretty stout stuff.
For those who don't know, that's 50% alcohol content.
It's pretty
About
stout.
50% anyways.
Yes, but the stout. Standard is like 80 proof. Like just
Yes.
regular whiskey or something and stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, she was a drinker.
Yeah.
Crawford's eldest daughter, Christina, would also claim that her mother's alcoholism contributed to her abusive behavior at home. It was a vice that would follow Crawford into old age, and biographer Lawrence Quirk revealed to Vanity Fair that his personal phone calls with an elderly Crawford were less research-heavy chats about his biography and more rambling, vodka-fueled rants about the star's bygone career.
Mm.
Despite admiring her for decades on the big screen, one thing fans never knew about Crawford was that she had a less than perfect relationship with her two eldest children, Christina and Christopher Crawford.
Right.
All was revealed allegedly revealed,
Right.
in 1978 when a grown up Christina published Mommy Dearest, a scathing memoir that detailed her mother's abusive behavior. The book characterized Crawford as an alcoholic who had lost her shine. With fewer film offers coming her way as she aged, her eldest two children often bore the brunt of her anger issues. Her youngest children, twins Kathy and Cindy, publicly disagreed with this depiction of their mother, and yet the book was a sensation and was even adapted into a film in 1981.
Right.
Although it was met with a lukewarm response upon its arrival, the film adaptation of Mommy Dearest has since become a cult classic, with fans delighting in the unintentional, over-the-top drama.
Right. It's out there. It's crazy. Everybody's probably seen at least memes or something of the no wire hanger scene,
Yeah. So, some contemporaries have challenged the depiction of Crawford in Mommy Dearest, but for the most part, the book's popularity has resulted in Crawford becoming less known for her Oscar win and more for her bizarre treatment of her children.
Right.
So, now, since we're towards the end of the story, I'll go over some of the allegations from Christina. So, when Crawford first adopted Christina and Christopher, they were named Jonah Jr. and Philip Terry Jr. after his adopted father. But after Crawford's third marriage fell apart, she renamed the children. Crawford hated wire hangers, as the bell mentioned just a
Mm,
while ago, and reportedly once woke up her daughter in the middle of the night for using them. In a scene that's become synonymous with the film, she is said to have dragged her daughter by the hair, yelling,
mm,
no wire hangers, while beating her with one until
right,
her ears rang.
right.
Very dramatic,
Mhm.
which is another thing that eh, it kind of brought to mind something I talked about earlier, the botched abortion
Right,
allegations, because wire
right,
hangers are often used for
right,
back alley abortions, so to
right.
speak. I don't know about back then, but
Mhm. Right,
throw some fuel on that fire.
right.
Anyways, Christina had a favorite dress until she provoked her mother into shredding it. Crawford then made Christina wear the dress for a week in order to humiliate her. Crawford was prone to what Christina called night raids, in which she would wake the children up drunk and make them clean messes that they hadn't necessarily made for hours on end.
Mm,
Christina says that she was once starved for days when she refused to eat an undercooked steak that was still bloody,
right.
all in a bid for her mother to further control her. Crawford supposedly kept Christopher tied up in a bed in a sleep safe device that she also trussed Christina up in the shower at night. At Christmas, the children were photographed as being gifted tons of items, but they were only allowed to choose one thing to keep, while the rest were given away to charity or saved to be regifted. The children then had to write thank you cards for each and every gift, and those cards were meticulously edited by Crawford. When Christina was 13 years old, she supposedly suffered one final brutal beating from her mother, in which she thought she was going to be choked out. She was later quoted as saying in an interview with Larry King that that was the last time we had any physical violence because I knew that if it happened again, I would do everything in my power to protect myself. End quote. Crawford attacked her daughter once more after that incident when she thought Christina was making a pass at her husband at the time, Alfred Steele. Because, sure.
Yeah, why wouldn't you?
So, Christina wrote that when she was 15 years old, she was so depressed from her mother's treatment of her that she had tried to kill herself at a boarding school by overdosing on pills. She claimed that her mother never contacted her or addressed the situation afterwards. Although Christina never flat out accused her mother of killing her fourth husband, still, she has pointed to the fact that the healthy man suspiciously fell down the stairs after only 3 years that they had been married. These allegations have been disputed, and the actual truth may never be known.
Yeah, the other two kids, the younger ones, they say that their mother wasn't like that. I
So,
don't.
meaning take all of this with a very, very small grain of
Right
salt.
now, maybe she was like that with the older ones, and maybe she changed. We don't know, or
The
maybe
point
it
is,
was all horribly fabricated.
there's no solid evidence pointing to the fact,
No,
and many lives have already been ruined. May not, you shouldn't speak ill of the dead.
well, no, I'm not. I'm not saying she did any of it. I'm just saying maybe she changed, or maybe it was just like really exaggerated. Even maybe there were some instances that did happen, and she just went crazy and exaggerated it. Maybe nothing happened. Like I said, the younger ones always defended her, and they said no, and they even got like I think filed like contempt against her, and even one like something like got
Yeah.
a lawsuit against her. One of them. Now I don't know. She didn't like the younger ones. So the older children were against the younger children, and there you go. But anyway, we hope you enjoyed that excerpt. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe, and don't forget to stay disturbed.